Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Chalsa Bird.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Welcome back to the At the Show podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Tony the Sugar Baggy Bird. How you doing, my man?
Doing good. How are you, my good friend?
I am good. I'm happy to be back. I am finally healthy. I can talk. I had a horrible cough and sore throat where I was losing my voice last week, so I would have been no good on the podcast zone, so I was struggling. But I am very, very happy to come back and talk some movies, my guy.
Me too. I have watched quite a lot, and I'm excited to share my findings with you, my man.
Yes, sir. So we have a big show for you today. We're going to go over the legendary career of Hollywood's king, some might call him, as in Denzel Washington, with Gladiator 2 hitting the box office a few weeks ago and blowing up and making a ton of money. And everybody's saying it's a great sequel. Have you seen it yet, Tone?
No, I have not, but there is a quote I'm going to play for you that I am obsessed with lately, which I'm actually excited to see it when I do. My problem is it's a long one, and I can't carve out like 3.5 hours to go see this movie, you know?
Yeah, it's some of those films that are 3 hours long are kind of hard to get to. Those are more like at home movies because you get to chill and like you don't really have to do much. And
Yeah.
it is kind of hard for those 3.5 hour long movies.
Oh, yeah.
But I do plan on seeing it when I get a chance. Maybe we can go together. We'll figure it out.
Yes.
But yeah, we got an action-packed show for you guys today, and we're gonna go straight into our first segment, Tone, with what we've been watching this week, my man.
Let's do it.
That's a me. And also, what were you just watching?
So what you been watching this week, my man?
All right, let's start off with the classic Clint Eastwood film, Dirty Harry. Early 70s classic, and honestly, Clint is at the top of his game. I know you love Clint. Unforgiven is one of your favorite movies, but man, I just watched this movie. It was last week, and even Katie, who hadn't really seen it before, was really intrigued by just how awesome Clint is just dropping amazing quotes in this movie, which is, I think that's what you look for with Clint, is, you know, you're hoping that he's Clint, you know, the Clint of dropping cool movies, cool lines, and really just an all around good performance. The bad guy in this movie I always enjoy because he's also, for horror movie fans, he plays like the dad in the first Hellraiser movie, which is a really ridiculous thing. And also a movie that I know you are extremely fond of, Yump, and that is Cobra. He plays the gentleman, which was hilarious because my father pointed that out to me. I'm like, that's him? But yes, that is him. But Clint is awesome. Clint is just, from the word go in this movie, I think it's kind of like it's a lot more sophisticated than Roadhouse, but man, some of the quotes are just great.
Well, a naked man is chasing a woman through an alley with a butcher knife and a heart on. I figure he isn't out collecting for the Red Cross.
And honestly, he talks to the great from Killer Clowns from Outer Space right there, John
Vernon.
Yeah, John Vernon. And honestly, the movie is just great with great quotes. What do you think of Dirty Harry, Yump? You ever dig in?
So I, like many of the kids growing up in the mid '80s to '90s, played Dirty Harry on NES. I don't know if you ever played that game. It's
No.
ridiculously, it's not that great, but I remember my aunt had went to the video store and rented it for me, and I played it. It kinda made me think about the movies, and then, of course, the, infamous or famous quote, "Do you find yourself lucky?
Oh,
Well, do ya?" Even though and people are saying he doesn't say punk, but I, got into Dirty Harry probably a little bit later, probably in my 20s, and then I realized recently within the past 5 years, I didn't have any Dirty Harry films. Me and my brother-in-law were talking about it at family dinner one day, and I went and I actually bought all the digital films off,
ooh.
Prime, and I watched, this film, and yeah, I totally forgot Rennie Santoni, which is the guy you're talking about from Cobra. He's also in Bad Boys. He's the counselor, I believe. He's in this film, and then I watched, Magnum Force, Sudden Impact, The
Oh,
Enforcer,
yeah.
and then the Deadpool. I watched them all, like, in in a row, and then, like, I love these films. They're iconic just because he plays such a like, Clint Eastwood's really, really good at playing a grumpy old man, even though that's what he is now, a grumpy old man,
I
and
remember oh, go on, continue.
no, no, go ahead.
I remember one night it was like 1 in the morning when I was going to Ball State and I was watching Magnum Force, and I was just like, "This movie is awesome." I actually like, 2, probably 2 and 3 more than I like the first one because it's a little bit more developed. Um, but I mean, you talk about that last one, the Deadpool, you got Jim Carrey, you
Mhm.
got for music fans out there, some of Guns N' Roses in a band with Mr. Jim Carrey. Liam Neeson does a amazing job, and that race car being parked under other cars before they blow up is amazing. Just Dirty Harry as a whole is a really cool series that I think preluded to some of the other great action series, maybe even a little Cobra in there too.
Yeah, yeah, it's, totally '80s, like, kinda like a newer version of noir films, I would say, like the detective, hard-nosed detective, he's been spoofed on The Simpsons as McCarnacle. You ever seen it? But I do like Dirty Harry films. Like I said, Clint Eastwood's is very good at playing disgruntled, figures, and he does a really good job in this one. Uh, Harry Callahan is a badass.
Oh yeah. I mean, one day we're gonna do a deep Clint Eastwood dive, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And honestly, he also has a lot of great deep cuts. Like I could watch anything with Clint. There isn't a movie I've watched, a movie called Firefox. He's a fighter pilot. I've watched he's the Eiger Sanction. He's like going in the mountains. He's like a spy. Like I just love Clint. So when I saw you liked Unforgiven, I knew that you had to like Clint. And he's got this new movie. It's supposed to be on Paramount Plus, I think, coming out called Juror Number Two. He directed it with
Mhm.
Nicholas Holt. But I'm game for anything Clint Eastwood. So glad you like some Dirty Harry. And it's awesome. Your brother-in-law, who is awesome. It's glad you had that conversation so you could pick up those digital copies.
Yeah.
But the next movie I went ahead and watched here is, have you seen Twisters yet? Yeah.
No, I have not.
Oh well, I don't know where to go here tonight. I don't know what to say. Um, I don't know. I'll take it easy on Twisters because I just wrapped up Beetlejuice 2. Did you see that?
I have not had time to see
Oh my
anything.
lord, thank the Lord. Yep. Because honestly, I don't. Beetlejuice 2 really upset me. Twisters did upset me until I saw Beetlejuice 2. And then I thought, well, Twisters really isn't as bad. Twisters kind of reminds me a little bit more of a kind of what Top Gun 2 was doing, but a little bit more watered down version. I get what they're doing, okay. It just doesn't feel the same anymore. And Beetlejuice 2 really didn't feel anything like the original Beetlejuice to me. It actually felt really stupid. Um, but back to Twisters, you know, if you have not seen it or you have seen it, it is very entertaining. And if you are a fan of the original, um, my wife seemed to be a big fan of Glenn Powell in this movie. All I kept talking about was the new Running Man, which is exciting, which he will be in. But honestly, Twisters it was okay. I think there was a lot of cliche in it, and I'm not a big fan of the old cliche in the regards of like um nostalgia, and I love nostalgia. I brought this movie up to my wife when comparing Beetlejuice 2 and this movie. I really liked The Thing, the one that they made after The Thing, the one with Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Joel Edgerton. Yeah, is it as good as the original? No, but it could hold next to it. It's a pretty okay watch after that. Where these movies, I just don't feel that same way at all. I feel like they're more feel cash grabby than they do of original material. Um, Back to Beetlejuice really quick. Beetlejuice really just felt like over the top done, way too many characters. When studying of the original movie, I mean, it took place in a house over, a period of time. This is like, it's just more bigger in scope, and I just didn't enjoy that. Where this movie, I think the CGI is what turned me off, even though we've talked about it. The original CGI wasn't, you know, the best, but I don't know. Yeah, check them out, and I'm curious to hear what you say when you do. They're streaming for free. You have the streaming things. Put them on in the background when you're trying to take a nap, and maybe you'll stay awake or something.
I'm gonna check them out. I've heard good things about Twisters. I've heard kind of mixed reactions about Beetlejuice. I've heard it should have been shorter, but I'll check them out and see. I love Michael Keaton.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I mean Michael Keaton is going to get the only credit in that movie. It's really the script, and the script. Twisters. After when I said Twisters was better than Beetlejuice, my wife was like, "Really?" Because I guess I really, really ripped Twisters when I watched it, but it was like a week and a half ago when I watched it, so I've cooled down on my anger on Twisters.
yeah, I gotta check them out to see. I know I've had a bunch of people ask me if I've seen Beetlejuice, and I just like I haven't got around to it. I really want to see that. I really want to see, even though it's been horribly talked about, is Borderlands because I love the games and the fourth one's coming out next year, so I would like to see the movie, even though I didn't agree with the casting when I saw the casting at first. But that's Hollywood. I heard it crashed pretty bad at the at the box office. So, oh, but that these two movies did well, and I want to see how they did. Your opinion does hold some weight though, because now I'm worried about it going in for
Well,
Beetlejuice.
with a guy like you, Yump, if you haven't seen him yet, there's something that just a tiny bit that's holding you back. There's something that isn't getting you to put it on. Because I mean, when I look down and you're telling me you're watching The Mousetrap, which we're gonna get to here in a second, and you didn't see Beetlejuice, and I know you love the first movie. That means that you know that if you see it, that it's not something you're rushing to watch. You know what I mean?
So I have a story about that, but the first movie I'm gonna talk about is I was in a Rutger Hauer kind of mood, and we had talked about this film, in passing on other podcasts, and I turned on the 1992 science fiction film Split Second. Now, I remember this cover art. I know we talked about the cover art because I remember going into the video store and the box is just awesome. It's just him, with an alien behind him, and he's basically like walking forward with a shotgun. It's just awesome to look at, and it always intrigued me what kind of movie it was. And growing up, I found that this film had Kim Cattrall in it. Of course, me being a huge fan of Big Trouble in Little China, Kim Cattrall's from there. I love Mannequin. I mean, those are hilarious movies to me. I wanted to see this. This movie is not great, but it is entertaining as hell. The monster fucking shoots a shotgun. He's like an alien, gigantic alien serial killer. He shoots a shotgun, he rips people's hearts out, and he basically plays with Rutger Hauer the whole film. He has like a partner that is this is based in England. He has a partner that it's called Dick Durkin, which I always laughed about that. And they actually make fun of his name. They basically he's just like the straight shooter, and Rutger Hauer is the rogue cop whose partner died. The lead up to the monster is great because they barely show him. They only show us like him ripping like cases. They show him shooting the shotgun, and then when you see him, you're like, man. Then you realize this is a not big budget film, but it was enjoyable. Have you seen this film, Tone?
Yeah, I mean, when you were brought up, of course, on a past show, you wrote the amazing article on I Come in Peace. When I watched that movie a long time ago, this was one that I watched also, along with that Blind Fury movie that I showed you, along with the other, oh, what's the other one with Dolph? Oh, Oh, the Punisher remake.
Punisher.
It was like these 4 for some reason. I put them all together, and honestly, it's been such a long time since I've seen this. It does deserve a rewatch for me. Definitely, it's been a very long time.
Yeah, it's very, very like cheesy, but it's enjoyable.
I like Rudger, so I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Now, to the mousetrap, my best friend called me one day and he's like, "Hey, have you seen this movie, The Mousetrap?" And I'm like, "No, because I haven't heard of it." He's like, "You have to watch it. I want to know what you think about it." He goes, "I watched some stuff on it." He goes, "And the stuff they're saying, like, you got to watch it. I want to see you watch it." He's like, "Can you do it for your what we were watching?" Well, I planned on doing it last week, and I'm like, "Okay, I watched this film one time last week, and then today, since it was very slow at work because we had a lot of stuff to do last night, I watched it during work, and my opinion has not changed about it." The film is based off Steamboat Willie, which is Mickey Mouse's earliest adaptation in film or TV in the theaters. That lost its copyright license. It basically became free use like Winnie the Pooh. So all these films came out with horror genre of Winnie the Pooh as a killer, and now you have basically a killer that wears a Mickey Mouse mask. When I tell you, Tone, that this is probably the worst horror movie I have ever seen in my life, like it's
You're not
outstanding. Like it's crazy how I can think that because I've seen some pretty crappy horror movies. I mean, I've seen not the Clint Howard Ice Cream Man. I've seen like the knockoff amateur Ice Cream Man. This movie, for one, it's supposed to be a slasher. There is minimal kills. Most of them are off screen. The kills that do happen are horrible CGI. The acting is horrible. Like I'm telling you, like cringe-worthy horror. My 8-year-old can act better than these people, and I feel bad for them because the script is horrible. It's basically about a guy who he owns an arcade, and apparently he's having a drink, and he becomes crazy with Mickey Mouse because he's watching Steamboat Willie, and it starts talking to him, and he puts on the mask, and then apparently he could teleport. They never explain why the fuck he teleports around. They don't explain anything in this movie, like, and it opens with them talking in a jail cell to a girl that survived, and the acting between the police officer and the girl is horrible. It's just, dude, I watched it again today because I'm like, was it really that bad? Because I gave it a second chance and I watched it. I'm like, this is a piece of shit. Then I watched Dead Meat, which is another channel I tell you about. Like they review horror movies. I love James Janice on Dead Meat. And he shit all over this movie too. And I'm like, thank God. He goes, this is probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen, man.
Well, no, I have not seen this one at all. Not at all.
I want you to watch, like my buddy's laughing at me. I want you to watch this movie because I'm telling you, dude, like it makes no sense. And then like I'll tell you, I'll spoil the ending for you because I'm pretty sure nobody's gonna watch. The main character gets her head chopped off at the end, right? And the final line is the guy the nerdy guy who was interested in her being like, "Oh my god, I was supposed to ask her out, and her head got chopped off." And I was like, "What the hell kind of way?" And the movie is that there's an after scene credit that's not worth your time to watch either. Like,
Oh,
there should be no
Lord.
sequel to this film. And apparently, when I watched James A. Janice's review of this, he said, the director, the guy who created this film, and he's the star of it, said, "Oh, they just went with their first, you know, draft." I'm like, "That's why this movie sucks. It's so bad." The beginning of it was kind of funny because they did a crawl, like a Star Wars crawl of why this film is not associated with Disney. And it was kind of funny at first, but the thing went on for like 2 minutes. And I'm like, okay, get to the movie. Like it's just, you know what I mean? The joke's on, over with. I don't know. They just tried too hard. And I'm glad I watched this for free because I would have been pissed if I paid for it. So if you've seen this movie, The Mousetrap, let me know in the comments. Let me know, at Twitter, anywhere you can find me, because this is possibly the worst film I have ever seen in terms of horror genre. And I am open-minded to everything. I usually don't say that, like, but this film was really bad. And I think the acting is what kills it. The plot too, but the acting really, really kills it. Tony froze. So while Tony froze, that was what we've been watching all week. Tell us what you watched over at the Athlete Show Pod on Twitter. We are on Blue Sky at statisticpenguin.bluesky.social. I was hoping the movie was based on a old board game. I was too. It probably would have been a better idea, Middleman Jack. But let us know what you've been watching this week. Like I said, Jesus, I would have rather watched Beetlejuice 2 if it was that bad. This movie was horrible. But guys, as you know, December 18th is coming up very, very soon. Our buddy Gordo is having surgery that day for his quadruple bypass surgery. We've been raising money to help him with his medical bills. And if you want to help him out, if you have some extra change for Christmas, be sure to buy a shirt from our merch shop. All proceeds go to Gordo. We don't make any money off this. So everything that we get, the fees that are taken out, and then we give him all the money. It's just to help him with his medical bills. It's just a way of you getting something to have with you if you want, instead of just donating. If you want a shirt that supports them, the Gummy Strong shirt is there for Gordo. And Gordo, we're hoping for the best for you, my man, and hope everything goes well. Also, a shout out to my guy Johnny. I know he had a big medical thing going this week. I'm glad everything's okay with him. I was worried about him as well. My man, you are back. You're back.
Oh, I'm back, and I'm back in the other room just to be safe. You never know. I don't know it was going good for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was. I saw you frozen, but it's okay.
All right, let's keep this rock and roll ship going.
Yes, sir. So I just did the Gordo plug. So we have, if you can buy Gordo's shirt, that'd be great. Help him out. His surgery is the 18th. I think we'll be keeping the shirt on the site through the end of the month, and then we'll pull it off. But another thing too, Tony, we have talked about possibly doing a mini little project between the both of us.
Yes.
I was planning on doing something last week, but of course I got sick. But even though I didn't have a voice, I made a little video.
What? Ooh, I like that.
So if you haven't seen it, you're listening on the podcast version of the show. I did release a video for the mini show, which will be more based towards entertainment news. So like this week, we can discuss the Robert Downey Jr., the bringing back of our man Chris Evans, stuff like that. Just to go, it won't be a long pod. It'll just be mostly entertainment news and our thoughts about it. It's kind of a way to branch off, the At the Show into a more smaller, compact show, just to give you more context throughout the week. It will probably be released on random days, Tony. We could probably do it. We could do it live some days, and some days we can just record it, whichever our schedule fit. But be on lookout for that. And you want to upload this one to the podcast studio, or you want to just okay, cool.
Yeah, we could do both. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, we'll have it. We will have it then on the podcast studio as well. But yeah, the mini show will be releasing soon. We'll be recording our first episode. Hopefully within the next coming week, and then we'll drop that along with our reoccurring At the Show episodes, which today, Tone, I think is episode 39.
You got it. 39.
Yes, wow. So that is the most episodes of any season we've ever done.
We've been busy
in the history of the podcast. So the At the Show has taken over the most episodes. That's just pretty cool. I should have had a sound ready for you there, but how about we go Hawk? Good old Hawk.
It's a lot better than this. I mean, when you think about it, we've done 39 episodes in one season. That's a lot. And we are, I feel like, honestly, our next year, we're going to take another step in the strong direction. And it's just, that's what it is. That's what it's all about, my man.
Yeah, really, really looking forward to it. So we have episode 40 will be coming out next week. We'll get to that and coming soon. And then I believe it's around Christmas time. We might take Christmas off and come back the week after New Year's. But now then we'll start season 5 for the At the Show podcast. But enough of me blabbering. You're all here to talk about some Denzel Washington films, my man. Tone, when was the first time you saw Denzel Washington on screen?
I'm just here for the game.
I love that line in that movie, the new movie. But again, first time I seen a Denzel movie. I mean, honestly, early 90s, 94, 92, 93. One of the movies that we're going to talk about tonight, I remember a friend back when, I'm watching Pulp Fiction, he said, you got to watch this other movie. It's just as awesome. And, and that movie was Ricochet. So a lot of just different things. And we're going to a lot of it in the movies that we're going to discuss tonight, which is awesome. Just a plethora of great films that he has been a part of.
Yeah, the first time I saw Denzel would probably be in Glory.
Ooh,
I watched it I believe it was on TV. It's because it's crazy because I saw it. It was probably late at night. And I saw it, and Matthew Broderick's in Glory, and I was like, "What the hell's Ferris Bueller doing in a Confederate soldier? Army, piece?" And then I watched, and Denzel was in there, and it's a very, very good movie. Very, very good. But that was the first time I experienced Denzel, and I've been following him ever since his career. One of my favorite actors. And even though he has a ton of blockbusters, he doesn't really do a lot of films. Like his filmography is pretty small compared to like we did when we did Will Dafoe. Will Dafoe has a little bigger filmography than Denzel, but still a great actor and still going strong, still pumping out those blockbuster hits.
Yeah, I mean, you hear rumors of him being a part of the new Black Panther. I know he's just can touch anything, and he's going to do a great job. Just looking online today for clips, he's got looks like about 20 great clips in the new Gladiator. So the movie could stink, but he is great in it. I've never forget, again, back to when I was at Ball State, we went and seen this movie called Antoine Fisher, in which he directed. And honestly, that was a great movie. And honestly, that's like the 30th greatest movie out of his whole catalog, So you're saying he's just got a stacked lineup of great movies.
Yeah, just he's great in everything he does. A professional actor that transcends his character.
Definitely.
But Tone, we're praising him. Let's get into our first film, my man.
Let's do it.
You certainly have me to do. Because I can keep going, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, body by body. Or you can call your boss and tell him to shut down this operation tonight. That's not much of an offer. That's the only one you're going to get. When you pray for rain, you got to deal with the mud, too.
2014's The Equalizer, directed by Antoine, excuse me if I mess up this name, Fuqua. He also directed The Equalizer 2 and 3, Southpaw, Brooklyn's Finest, Tears of the Sun, and Training Day. The film, of course, stars Denzel, and we have Martin Sioskas as in the film as well, along with Chloe Grace Moretz, Johnny Scortez, and David Harbour. The movie had a budget of $55 million and a box office of $192 million. This film, I think, to me, it made Denzel on a whole nother level. John Wick had come out with Keanu, and I think it kind of made Keanu into that action star again. And this film is like another version of John Wick, but with Denzel as a badass and his older age. I really like this film because, one, he doesn't shoot a gun in this film. He only disarms people. I love that he plays like the pacifist kind of guy that did things in his past life, but kind of move on. He works at like a Menards type, Home Depot type store. He's helping a guy get ready for, security guard training job. He's basically helping people, fix their stuff. He goes at night to read because he's an insomniac. He has OCD. It's like so many small little pieces to this character that he does a great job of. And I know this film is based off a series that was back in the 80s, but I do like the updated version with Denzel in this film. He does a great job of the character. and he's just like when he gets it's like he flips that switch and just becomes like a complete badass in the film and just jacks up a lot of people from the Russian mob. Also, Martin Sioskas, who plays the Russian mobster, does a great job in this film as well. It's really enjoyable to see him get back at the bad guys, and basically, still show he can still go in this film. And this is a film that he wasn't interested in taking in it because he didn't really want to do it. And then he just basically said, "I did it because I was obligated to do it per contract," and now he's doing 4 of them. It's spot and each one of them is decent in its own way. Like even the third one, I usually it kind of drops off a lot after the second film. The third one's that I watched when he's in Italy is great as well. What'd you think of the Equalizer, my man?
I mean, even what you just said right there. I mean, Denzel, I don't believe is somebody who, unless the script is pretty close to being okay, he's not going to take the role. So even in the third one, I haven't seen it. I've only seen the first two. But now, your passion of describing the film again, that's always what it is about movies with me. It's always been. It's the same thing with music. I could forget something. I might not have been into it as much. And that's how it is with this movie. I've only seen it once or twice. So to be fair, it's a movie after listening to you again tonight. I want to take some extra special time with, especially now that there's 3. Because Denzel, when I did see it, and I watched it again a couple months ago, but I was also working on something else in the background. But Denzel's got such a nature in film that, like, honestly, he is like, whereas you described, you picked up John Wick, in this, he's like a quiet storm. You know what I mean? You just don't know what he's going to do at any moment. And that goes even with his dialogue. He puts everything into these roles. I mean, honestly, I read a story, honestly, just about a week and a half ago about James Brolin, who said that, Denzel was so serious on the set of American Gangster because that's how much he was into the role that Josh Brolin went to like tap him on the shoulder or something, and like Denzel reacted like his character would have in the movie. And then later, after they yelled cut, he's like, "You okay? You cool?" Because that's like how deep Denzel takes this passion of acting. And this is a great example of that because it's like you put all the movies together. It's like just like 6 hours of Denzel like acting.
Yeah, it's him acting in great ways as Robert McCall. We lost tone for a second, but the film itself is like John Wick and this film came out the same year, so
Am I
it's a
back?
total opposite. Yeah, you're back. It's a total opposite of, and it's not really a total opposite. It's more of a similar films between the two, but the characters are opposite in terms of their backstory. Like John Wick, everybody talks about how much of a badass he was, or like Baba Yaga, the person that you sent to kill the monster, the boogeyman. And in the Equalizer, Robert McCall, nobody knows his backstory. He even tells the kids that he was one of the backup dancers for the Pips. Like, so I like that concept of it. Is he's like that? You said like a quiet storm coming at you, and he just does a great job in this film.
I mean, again, in the camera work too, Antoine Fuqua, all those movies you mentioned are really great. Besides maybe Tears of the Sun, which we'll talk about at a later date. But it really good lighting in the movie too, because as you stated, when you're like this picture that's on the screen, he's in the shadows a lot in the movie too. You know what I mean? You kind of know a little bit about him, but you don't know everything about him. The character interaction between him and Chloe Grace Moretz, who does a great job in the movie, I think too, because you're thinking to yourself, too unlikely, Kick Ass, and the girl from Kick Ass and him interacting in a movie, but she does a good job holding her own with him too, which shows, shows a good, you have to be a pretty good actor to be in a movie with Denzel because you got to hang with one of the best.
Yeah, and this is actually Denzel's first trilogy movie series. In terms of his preparation for his role, he actually went to a lot of people with OCD and learned a lot of things that they cope with and insight on how they cope with the disease. as well as Chloe Grace Moretz going and interviewing real life prostitutes who told her like things like you need to gain weight because in the profession men prefer prostitutes with flesh. So I mean, these are, and she was a young actress. She fought for this role because they wanted somebody a little older, but she fought for this role. Of course, I don't think she was 18 yet. She fought for this role to get into this film, but they're really dedicated to their craft. Both very, very. She's an up and coming great actress, and of course, with Denzel, you do have to hold your weight with him.
Sure.
So that is my pick for the first one. Let's get to Tony's first.
You do. You give them hope because you have transcended. Very important to transcend places that hold us. You know that? You've learned to read, you've learned to write. Writing is
1999's The Hurricane, directed by Norman Jewison, who also directed Jesus Christ Superstar, In the Heat of the Night, and Moonstruck. The film stars Vasilis Shannon, Deborah Kara Unger, Liv Schreiber, John Hannah, and Dan Hidea. Oh man, Dan came out like that. Had a box office of $73 million and a $50 million budget. And yes, Jack, Queen Latifah is now the equalizer. Tone, tell me why you picked The Hurricane, my man.
This past week, again, another story that I heard Denzel tell is the Academy Awards. Okay, he is up for Best Actor for The Hurricane, and he doesn't win it. Okay, and I look back, and who did win it was somebody who I love, American Beauty, but we now know who Kevin Spacey is, and that night, Denzel remembers looking over, and at this point, the rumors of Kevin Spacey had already started through Hollywood. It wasn't like this was a secret. He remembers that on that night, he felt like he should have won. And he remembers looking over that he feels like when they called out Kevin Spacey's name, everybody was kind of staring at him because they thought he was the one who was going to win. But he remembers looking over at Spacey and Beauty, and they were like in their own little circle that he won. When you really look at both performances now, I really believe that Denzel Washington should have won for many different reasons, because of the character in which who he was portraying, because what it took to play this character at that time period, and then, well, who Kevin Spacey really is. He shouldn't have won anything ever. But that being said, that is one of the many reasons why I picked this movie. I think and honestly, because I love the Bob Dylan song, it's one of my favorite songs. So I'll put in all that together. I really, that's why I picked this movie, is because there's a lot of meaning behind this movie. And when you hear Denzel talk about it, he was very pissed off for a long time after he did not win that Oscar. He was pissed off at Hollywood as a whole, and he took movies that reflected that. He took a movie called The Manchurian Candidate, which showed him very pissed off. Read this article. It just came out within the last week or two. I'm sure if you Googled anything that I just said, he goes a little bit more in depth. But it actually, when I read this article, made me tear up, because the empathy of the character of the Hurricane, but also the empathy of Denzel putting himself on the line to play this character, who Denzel currently is, who Kevin Spacey is, you could kind of see why maybe he should have won that Best Actor for this movie.
Yeah. For this argument, I can see. I thought American Beauty was very good, and I think Denzel was very good in their Hurricane. So I can see it kind of as a coin flip, a little bit closer to a coin flip.
So you think a guy who touches molest people, it should be a coin flip? I know art and separated, but from the perspective this is from the perspective of Denzel. I know this perspective of you, but the perspective of the actor of Denzel. When you know that there are rumors about somebody and they're going around at that time.
But I mean, you have to, we're playing
and the movie itself,
quarterback here,
the movie, and not even to be funnier, but in the movie, I mean, Denzel's playing a character who is overcoming something. In the movie of American Beauty, Kevin Spacey's playing actually the character who he is actually against in real life. So it makes it even humorous. And American Beauty is one of my top 10 movies of all time. So I'm just speaking from that point. I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
No, but yeah, I mean, but I can't say like go back in time. I'm just saying just from take out the personal belief, because if you really want, like, Harvey Weinstein has made tons of films and he's
So,
a piece of shit
and my
human.
point though is, you think American Beauty, a man just playing a father who's struggling. Now that we've seen that now performance a million times, but now Reuben Carter, the Hurricane, you know what I mean? And Denzel, who we're talking about tonight, as his body of work. Could you see other people playing Kevin Spacey's part?
To be honest with you, no. I thought he did a good job in it. Yeah,
Well,
I thought
he didn't do a good job. I'm saying, like, I could see a lot of white guys playing a middle-aged father struggling with that great script, with that great direction, with all the other great cast members. But I can't see. I mean, James Earl Jones is going to be playing the Hurricane in the late 90s. We don't have really many other actors in this category who could play the Hurricane. So that's my point.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. But that's also in Hollywood as well, because they weren't casting, and this is even when the Hurricane came out in the 90s, there weren't really huge African American stars like there should have been. And if we want to get to Denzel is the only African American to have been nominated for to win 2 Oscars.
Well, yes, but the ones, my point is, even the ones that Hollywood has presented, could they have played this role?
Well, I mean, Will Smith played Ali.
Yeah, but Ali is, again.
But he played Ali.
Again, Will Smith.
And I hate Will Smith.
Yeah, but again, that's the point again. The point is a guy who has amazing character playing another character who actually rose up. Will Smith, you find out, is a piece of garbage too. So it's like, my point is that, again, I'm talking about someone who's like Denzel. You never, ever, me, you, or no one else in this world would ever put Will Smith in the top 40 actor of all time, let alone Don Cheadle. Yeah, but then again, Don Cheadle at this point wasn't getting these type of roles. Maybe in 2004 or 2005, you know what I mean? A little bit later, he could have gotten this. But again, Will Smith, don't make me laugh that Will Smith's even a good actor in the same department as Denzel. So Kevin Spacey, at least you can say, was a great actor, right? Couldn't you say that?
Yeah.
But you couldn't say that about Will Smith.
He won an Oscar. That's why, after he slapped
somebody. Well, that's the point. That's the point.
What? I think Will Smith's best role was his first one, which is 6 Degrees of Separation. Because he's a con man. That's why I thought it was good.
Heath Ledger won an Oscar too. I mean, we could talk all day long. I mean, we got.
But in terms of your argument, like, I don't think. And my whole point is, I don't think it's as like far fetched. Like, I can understand Denzel's angst and anger over it. I think like in terms of me thinking of somebody that was kind of like should have won overwhelmingly, was like when Killers of Flower Moon, when she lost to Emma Stone.
Yes.
That right there was ridiculous when Lily Gladstone lost for a person that wasn't even mentioned. Like all the this is like all Hollywood.
This is where we're going to have a disagree. That's your perspective on that situation. That is your perspective. On this perspective, the same. You're going to get the same argument. It's just, what are you more passionate about in the situation?
No, but I'm saying, but American Beauty, though, even going into that, was always a juggernaut. It won 5 Oscars. It was it was. I'm saying at least he lost to somebody that was hyped up.
Well, but that's I think even worse when you find out who Kevin Spacey was. I think that was the point of what he said.
I mean, yeah, but Polanski is still doing films, and everybody loves him in Hollywood, but he's a piece of shit.
He hasn't been to the Academy Awards in years, so
he can't come to the Academy Awards.
That's the reason. It wasn't like back and that's another conversation we could have another time, because as much bad as he's done, the gentleman also escaped a concentration camp when he was 10 years old. His wife was murdered, so that gentleman's got a little bit more of baggage than just his.
Doesn't
cover up what he did. No, I didn't say it did, but he hasn't been back, and nobody. We like The Ninth Gate. That's great, but nobody really, when that was released, because I remember when it was released, was like, Roman, come on the Jay Leno show and talk about The Ninth Gate. That movie was, again, like most of his work since he's been caught in the late 70s.
Okay, that if your argument is known the person Kevin Spacey is, Polanski won for The Pianist. The incident with the girl happened in the 70s. He
No, and
won for
that's
The
fair.
Pianist.
And
I'm
that's
saying
fair.
that's what I'm saying. Like Hollywood, Hollywood's a fucked up place, man.
Pianist though came before American Beauty though, so that's an unfair argument because
No, but but you're saying in terms of people that are
you're
like
right.
knowing the background. I'm just saying like
You're
obviously
right.
they didn't care. I'm not saying it's right, but in terms of we just go on the acting of the aspect of the film. I liked The Hurricane. I thought it was a very, very good film. I like American Beauty. I think that it's both
I think
performances
American
are
Beauty is
very
a
good.
lot better than this movie, but
But
that's my opinion. You know,
I just think it was a toss up. I just think it was a toss up for those two. But
I think American Beauty is a greater movie than this movie. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of Denzel. But no, it's a good conversation. That's why I love this show.
No, I totally agree with you. Who was nominated for? Well, we can go down when we get there. But no, I get what you're saying. But I can understand his angst, but I can also see it from the other side.
This will be a good conversation to revisit when the Oscars happen again, because we'll look up who else there was in that. Because I don't even know if there was someone that could have been better than both of them two. So
I doubt that. It's probably like some random person in there. But that is our argument, and that's The Hurricane. Jack says he loves this movie. But yeah, Hurricane is a great film. There are certain scenes in this film that are kind of exaggerated, like they made it seem like he lost the championship due
they
to
Rudy did a
racial,
little bit.
yeah, to racial, even though that wasn't true. But the message of the film is, still holds true today.
I think it's again, it's more the movie of his performance. I find there to be flaws in the movie, but again, whereas that's where I believe why American Beauty won is I don't believe American Beauty as a movie has a lot of flaws besides the issue we have already discussed tonight. So like it's close to a perfect movie where this movie isn't perfect. I think it's just more of the story and him playing it. I think, but a really good conversation. I love conversations like that.
Yeah, and while you were talking, I did look up the best actor for that particular category. Russell Crowe for The Insider, great film. Richard Farnsworth for A Straight Story. Sean Penn for Sweet and Lowdown, a film that I don't think I've seen, and Denzel were all nominated.
Interesting bunch.
Yep. Like the I'm gonna go. I'm about to say something about the best supporting actor for that role, but yeah, let's move on to my next pick.
Something is always happening, but when it happens, people don't always see it or understand it or accept it.
1998's Fallen, directed by Gregory Hoblit, who also directed Untraceable, Fracture, Heart's War, Frequency, a favorite of Tony's, and Primal Fear. The film stars Denzel along with John Goodman, Donald Sutherland, Ed Embeth Davids, James Gandolfini, and Elias Koteas. The film had a box office of $25 million and a budget of $10 million. I am a huge horror fan, as everybody knows, and to see Denzel in a horror type paranormal film was like awesome. I love the story in this film. I love the chemistry between Denzel and Koteas when they first meet, as he is a demon Azrael. It's a great story in terms of how he's transferred through touch, and Denzel plays a great cop in this film. As the character of John Hobbs, and just everything about it is right up my alley. It's not too long. It gets to the point, and it has a lot of backstory that Denzel does, filling in by being a police officer and trying to catch this serial killer, but also realizing that it might not be human. Kind of a better version of Split Second that we just talked about. I think Elias Koteas did a great job in his role, and he stepped up his game because he probably knew he had to be in a film with a heavyweight like Denzel as well as Donald Sutherland. And John Goodman's actually really, really good in this film as well too, as his partner. One crazy thing about it is James Gandolfini is in this film, and Ida Totoro from is also in this film as well, and they're both police officers in this film, but they play brother and sister in The Sopranos, which I think is hilarious. Uh, there's nobody I could see doing this role in terms of Denzel's job. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger's offered the role, which I'm glad he turned down. The only sad thing about this film is that Michael Biehn, who you might know from The Terminator, spent 2 years training for a part and ended up getting cut in this film.
Oh Lord.
What'd you think of Fallen, Tone?
Amazing movie that I was lucky enough to go see with my friends when it came out at the movie theater. I've always loved the music that they decided to use for it. The time is on my side. It was very catchy, and still to this day is very catchy, even when John Goodman sings it in the movie. But again, another performance that's different for Denzel. As you said, it's in the horror genre, so you can pick anything. Denzel does it mostly in every category, so this is again a good showcase of that.
Yeah, I really like the way it's shot from the demon's perspective, how it has like the overview shot. I love the fact that when to transfer it touches, and like when they sing the song, when James Gandolfini, I almost use this clip, but it was just a little too long. But when James Gandolfini tells him, "Hey, come here, I gotta tell you something," he starts singing the song, and then he touches his partner in the other detective in the office, and then he finishes the line, and then they touch somebody else, and then it keeps going on. And like Denzel's like expressions and everything in it is great, like because he's horrified, like he doesn't know what's going on. It's really, really well done. When he meets him on the street and he's touching, passing along, people are passing. He tells him, "Beware my wrath," and then it's an old lady to an old man to a kid. It's just great. It's great. Filming. Great films. Great cinema in general. I really like this film.
It is definitely an excellent example of direction. I think he does a really good job directing the movie, and then you have all the performances to boot. Another movie that Denzel was in that wasn't quite as good, that I was hoping was going to be as good as this, is The Bone Collector with Angelina Jolie. Still a fine watch, but this one is definitely better.
I would agree. Yeah. The Bone Collector is okay. But the cool thing about this film is that fans made a cut of the film called Azael, which is the demon, and it has an alternate ending when the demon doesn't win.
Ooh.
So that's kind of cool. I'm actually going to look for that. When I was doing research, I saw that. And I'm like, oh.
Very cool.
But yeah, that had to get a horror film on here, and I'm glad this one came up with the Denzel on it. So you ready to get to your next one, my man?
Let's do it.
Jesus. Almost.
Pat, I bet he shit his pants. I can't wait to look. I don't know why that popped out in my head, but I had to use that for the 1991 film Ricochet. It's directed by Russell McCauley, who also did Highlander, The Shadow. He also did music videos for artists like Boy George, Def Leppard, Queen, Flacco, and Duran Duran. The film stars Denzel Washington, John Lithgow, Kevin Pollak, Ice-T, Lindsay Wagner, and Mary Ellen Trainor. It had a box office of 21 million. Tell me why you picked Ricochet, my man.
I like this movie a lot. It's a lot of fun. It reminds me of a lot of the Stallone, Van Damme. It's like, this is like Denzel at like peak ridiculousness, really. But like, because it's Denzel, it still feels like a pretty, to me, quality movie. I mean, you hear John Lithgow, and John Lithgow plays an amazing bad guy in this movie. The interaction between both of them, great.
I have 3 bullets in your head, maybe 1 in your chest. I'll be on my way back to the station doing paperwork and eating donuts. Now, I love donuts, but I hate the paperwork.
I like the movie because it like takes a ride. Like, it starts from the beginning, and then he's a cop, and then he's the lawyer, and then like Lithgow. It's just great dialogue in the movie. I could have picked a lot of different parts, just as you could. A lot of hilarious, like, back and forth interaction. Ice-T's great in this too. All those reasons why I like this movie.
Yeah, And usually when we do like a showpiece on an actor, we show how great they are in a film. And in my opinion, like John Lithgow is like right like on par with Denzel in this film. Like I love him in his film as the bad guy. Like
I'll
he's
I'll be honest with you, I can go a little further, and I can say he could be possibly better than Denzel in this movie because he's just that ridiculous. Jesse Ventura's in this movie. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
come on.
You know what? You know the crazy part is, Baloney said underrated film, underrated wrestler, of course,
Yeah.
after Ricochet the wrestler. But when he goes to see Jesse Ventura in his room, there's actually a picture of Vince McMahon in there,
Really?
which
I
yeah,
didn't
which is
notice
funny.
that.
Because well, as we know, Ventura worked with Vince McMahon
He'll be
in
broadcasting tomorrow
wrestling, yeah, in
night too.
broadcasting, and he'll be broadcasting tomorrow, Saturday Night Main Event. Yeah,
Mhm.
but this film totally, Denzel has, like, more comedic in his being a police officer, but it's just awesome just for the villain and the way to get past the villain in here. John Lithgow, like we said, wore a knee brace due to limp. He also has a discolored eye. It's just ridiculous, and then, Denzel being in it gives it more credibility. The crazy thing is Rutger Hauer was considered for Earl Talbot Blake for this film.
Oh, that would have been good. That would have been good too, I think. Even though John
Yeah.
Lithgow you couldn't replace him, but still, just imagine Rutger
Mhm.
would have been good.
And speaking of Dirty Harry, Tony, the original screenwriter Fred Durker wrote the movie as a Dirty Harry series film, but it was deemed too grim by Clint Eastwood. Later, when it became involved with Joel Silver, the producer, megastar, producer, it was intended to have Decker to direct it with Kurt Russell to star in it, but that didn't happen.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Ricochet, the Lithgow Denzel Washington dynamic is worth the admission to watch it. It's worth your time. It's
We think
ridiculous.
you're great.
Yeah. And you could like look and see like a young Ice-T in here, which is great. I think was he still at Body Count during this time?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Who
Yeah.
actually just came out with a real great new album.
Oh, nice. Sam, you're not missing much, man. We're still going. We're going strong here. But yeah, check out Ricochet if you haven't. It's one of those like I guess movies that Denzel did that does not talked about a lot. But be sure to check that out. Let's move on to the next one, my friend.
You know what I don't understand is why they never found it, the doctors. My son has had clean checkups every year since the day he was born. How could the doctors not pick it up?
He might not have been tested thoroughly enough.
Why not?
You got an HMO, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's your answer. I mean, HMOs pay their doctors not to test. That's their way of keeping costs down.
2002's John Q, directed by Nick Cassavetes, who also did She's So Lonely, Alpha Dog, My Sister's Keeper, and The Notebook. The film stars Denzel along with Robert Duvall, Kimberly Elise, James Woods, Laura Haring, Anne Heche, Ray Liotta, and Gabriella Olteen. John Quinville. Ooh, John Quinville. Nah, it is John Q, though. It's kind of funny that I picked this film before the United Health CEO was killed. And this film hits on a lot of stuff in going on in America in terms of healthcare and how healthcare really screws you over. As we heard from that small little spot from E, aka Kevin Conley, as he's talking, basically saying that doctors are douchebags when the insurance companies tell them to do things. And you have James Woods, who's the doctor, who actually does a very good job in his role in this film, trying to explain, oh no, it doesn't work like that. And then Denzel basically fighting for his kid because his kid was misdiagnosed and he didn't have the money for certain things. His kid eventually needs a heart transplant, and he just takes the extremes to, save his child. And it's not based off a true story, but it holds similarity to his incident that took place in Toronto. Coincidentally, this movie was shot there. In 1999, a 26-year-old man named Henry Musaka was shot dead after holding a doctor hostage with an imitation handgun, as John Q does in this film, after his infant son was refused medical assistance. And it's crazy. This movie came out in 2002, and it was a way of people to kind of see the healthcare system as it was, and nothing's changed. It's worse. Uh,
Sure is.
unfortunately, somebody passed away with the United Healthcare CEO, but United Healthcare CEO has also taken away a lot of people's lives by rejecting medical care, and a lot of insurance companies do that. And this movie's kind of like an older version of what was happening then, and still is happening today. So it's kind of crazy. I picked that. It was not intentional, but when I was going through my list, I'm like, oh shit, I picked Jack Q. But Denzel is awesome in this film. You really feel his pain for his child, as any father would. Like I said, his dynamic and chemistry with James Woods very good. You have Anne Hesh and Ray Liotta, two great actors. Ray Liotta, of course, we know from Goodfellas, but also Blow, and Hesh from Donnie Brasco. Great actors that do a great job in their small roles in here. But it's a very hard subject to talk about. What do you think about this one, Tone?
Again, great performance. What's always pissed me off is when I go to like disc replay, there's always like a million John Q's. Like no one wanted to keep their John Q. Like they didn't have a heart to keep this DVD, into there. But that all being said, he does a really good job in it. And I remember the first time I watched it, because when you're sitting around with a bunch of buddies in college watching John Q, it's not like this is like some action-packed movie. And we all dug it. I don't remember anyone going, "This is boring, turn it off." So it shows again a movie with this serious topic. It hold the interest of a bunch of college guys drinking beer, on a Thursday night or something like that. So again, classic Denzel.
Yeah, it totally is. One funny part in this film, though, is when James Woods refers to himself as a blood-sucking vampire, and he was in Vampires earlier.
He was.
So
With
it's
Pain on
it's
June.
a tough story, and like as a parent, it makes you feel like, what would you do for your kid? Like, would you go to the extreme? I mean, you're
Well,
supposed to do that for a child.
yeah. I mean, like when it comes down to it, what else left is there if you're not pushing for your child the most? So it's see that in this role.
Yeah, great film. If you haven't seen it, another Denzel, like Sam said it the best. You can feel the humanity in this film, and it does a great job. And he says, "I think we watched this movie in general economics class in high school." LOL. Yep, economics. Talking about a lot of economics in this film, in the
Sure
bad
is.
way. But yeah, check out John Q if you have not seen it. It's a great film. Let's move on to your next film, my man.
I regret that your profession needs to exist.
So do I, Marjorie. So do I.
Do you ever see the hand of God in what you do?
No. For a long time.
The Bible says, be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil
with good. Romanos capítulo 12, versículo 21. I'm the sheep that got lost, Marjorie.
Man on Fire, released in 2004, directed by Tony Scott, who directed Domino, Unstoppable, Top Gun, True Romance, The Last Boy Scout, Beverly Hills Cop 2, The Fan, and The Hunger. The film stars Christopher Walken, along with Denzel, Dakota Fanning, Radha Mitchell, Mark Anthony, Rachel Ticotin, and also Mickey Rourke. The movie had a budget of $70 million and a box office of $130 million. Tone, tell me about Man on Fire.
I like this for probably the same way you described Equalizer. A guy willing to do anything to protect, and a guy who is willing. This movie goes to some pretty dark places, and I like Denzel's character. I also like his work with Tony Scott. I thought Unstoppable was not as good as this, but still a pretty good movie. Did Tony Scott do Deja Vu too?
I don't know. I can check.
Again, if he didn't, just those two movies alone, whenever an actor can work with a director multiple times, it is definitely a positive in an actor's career.
He did.
And what he did?
Yeah.
So like again, 3 movies. Tony Scott, who to me was a great director, rest in peace. True Romance is one of my favorite, but again, I like the grittiness of this movie. I like Denzel when there's grit behind the role, which we're going to get to later in some other movies that we're going to talk about. But again, Mickey Rourke does a good job in this movie too. Dakota Fanning, Denzel does a really good job. I mean, we brought up Chloe Grace Moretz earlier, but young female leads and being able to, I don't want to use the term like, I guess, mentor, but be like an excellent actor on screen to the young actress and not hear, he was a jerk to them while making these movies, I guess.
Yeah, and actually, Denzel came out and said that he was really impressed with Dakota Fanning's acting in this film. Just another great film in terms of, like you said, The Equalizer. Very similar, but yeah, Denzel does a great job of playing kind of like the anti-hero.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good job of playing it. We were laughing earlier at Sam saying he auditioned for this role, but ended up having to back out due to third-degree burns from taking it too literally, which made both of us laugh. Mickey Rourke and Denzel did not get along during this film, which I thought was pretty funny when I was reading this. And the crazy thing is, Tony Scott revealed that he had offered this role of Creasy to Russell Crowe, who turned it down. Scott said he called Crowe, and while he was on the set of Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, and said, "So, Man on Fire?" And Crowe said to him, "Listen, pal, have you seen Proof of Life?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I've been there, done that." Oh, Russell Crowe, man. He's strange
something.
cat. But, in terms of the character of Creasy that Denzel plays, the people who are offered or considered for this role are Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Kurt Russell, Michael Keaton, Alec Baldwin, Andy Garcia, Keanu Reeves, Val Kilmer, Kevin Costner, Dennis Quaid, your boy Quaid, Harrison Ford, Mel Gibson, Viggo Mortensen, Liam Neeson.
You blabbed about Quaid, Mars.
Yeah.
You blabbed about Mars, Quaid.
Gary Oldman, Sean Bean, Alan Rickman, Bob Hoskins, Ed
Bob
Harris.
Hoskins.
Yeah. Which is crazy. I can't see Bob Hoskins playing Greasy. I love Bob Hoskins, but he can't play Greasy. Come on, man.
Not at all. You can't. Which never do you want Bob Hoskins playing that role.
Yeah. It's crazy that
they did do a movie together. I don't know if you knew. It was called Heart Condition.
No, I did not know that.
Which is hilarious because I saw a picture of it on Facebook like an hour and a half before we joined. I never heard of it. They're on the front cover, and then you just brought up Bob Hoskins again, and I'm like, what is this? Bob Hoskins and Denzel could have been friends. They were obviously they were in that movie together, but I haven't seen that movie.
No, I haven't seen it either. But Christopher Walken originally was originally chosen for the role of Samuel Ramos, which is kind of funny because Christopher Walken does not look Latino, but he wanted to be was supposed to be the role of Samuel Ramos, and then eventually the lawyer of Samuel Ramos, Jordan Cuffus. But Walken wanted the role of Rayburn instead to break away from playing bad guys.
What's with Tony Scott? He made Walken an Italian in A True Romance. He doesn't look Italian either.
Christopher Walken looks like an alien. I love Christopher Walken. Don't get me wrong.
I
love him. But he looks like an alien. Very underrated in King of New York. You guys haven't seen that?
Yes.
He played Speed and Hook. He's got range. To Bob Hoskins. Bob Hoskins is a great actor. Like, me and my brother always laugh about him in Unleashed as Uncle Bart. My boy, Uncle Bart. Come say hi to Uncle Bart. Daddy. Like, we always quote him. But yeah, I just can't see him playing a CIA bodyguard in this film.
No.
But he was an awesome Mario.
He was.
While the film, PETA survives the kidnapping and Creasy dies at the end. In the novel, PETA is killed by the kidnappers and Creasy survives. Author J.J. Quillen wrote 4 more novels featuring Creasy and working on the 6th at the time of his death in 2005. And then Tony agrees. Christopher Walken looks like the baby alien in MLB that is revealed. Yes, he kind of does. I love Christopher Walken though. He has a distinct look, and he's a good dancer. But great pick, Tone. I really like Man on Fire. It's another film that even though it's kind of similar to another role Denzel plays, he does a great job in it.
He does.
So I guess you have to say Man on Fire walked. So crawled so the Equalizer could walk.
Yeah, but the thing is like the Equalizer is because I'll be honest with you, I've even watched the Queen Latifah version. Not terrible. It's again, the story again is a solid story as long as you got a pretty good actor. I'm not saying Queen Latifah's in anywhere. You know what? I'll put Queen Latifah in the Will Smith type of category. She could possibly win something, but nobody's gonna talk about her acting chops.
She was good in Chicago.
She's good in a couple things. She was good when Katie was giving birth. She was in some movie that was being played on the TV, and I don't even
She was gonna set it off, man.
It's called Last Holiday. It was called.
And I've seen that movie. It's with Common.
Yeah, that wasn't bad. Again, I think she's got like
no, it's something right. All the right. I'm sorry. I know what you're talking about. Last Holiday, though.
Yeah.
But
again, though, Equalizer is an excellent movie. Denzel is excellent in a lot of different cool things. Taxi with Jimmy Fallon. I don't know if I would ever talk about that on a movie show, but it looks like we are tonight. Sam brought it up.
You know what, Sam? I am not a fan of Jimmy Fallon. I can't watch his show because I think he's very fake on the Tonight Show. And I don't think he's funny. And I think he just laughed when there his skits in SNL because he knew he sucked. That's just me. I try to like him, and I just can't get around. Like, there's a scene, there's a shot of him and who played I'm drawing a blank here. He was in Mr. Robot.
Rami Malek.
Rami Malek, where Rami Malek slaps him a high five, and Jimmy Fallon looks at his hand in disgust, and he was serious. And I'm like, what an asshole. I'm just not a big fan of Jimmy Fallon. I try to be a fan of Jimmy Fallon. And Sam responds, nobody is a fan of Jimmy Fallon, not even himself. Well, now I feel bad. But all my homies hate Jimmy Fallon is what Baloney says. So I guess there's people out there who feel like me. But yeah, I don't know if I can get through a film of Jimmy. Like, I watched Fever Pitch, and that's probably as far as of a Jimmy Fallon film I can get through. But yeah. But let's move on to our next film. I believe Tony froze again, but we'll get into our next film, which is my film.
On the morning of the accident,
I was drunk. I'm drunk now. I'm drunk right now.
2012's Flights, directed by Robert Zemeckis, who also directed Beowulf, Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3, Forrest Gump, Contact, Used Cars, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and a classic, Romancing the Stone. It stars Denzel, along with Nadine Velasquez, John Goodman, Don Cheadle, Tamara Tooney, and Brian Geraghty. Yes, I agree with you, Sam. The film had a box office of $161 million and a $31 million budget. Sam put in the comments, John Goodman steals the show, and he does an excellent job in this film. I really like John Goodman as an actor. He's a very, very good character actor. I don't know if he's very good at carrying a film, but as a side actor, not the main actor, he's very, very good. This film, I think, really hit home to a lot of people who are struggling with addiction. And I think Denzel does a great job at portraying that. The scene that always just sticks in my head in this film is when he goes into his car, he buys a handle of vodka, goes into his car and is like crying and just chugging it because he's such a big alcoholic. The accident in the film was inspired by a real life disaster, the crash of Alaska Airlines 261 on January 31st, 2000. Some dialogue in the film closely resembles the CVR transcript. Like in the film, the pilots of Alaska 261 rolled the airplane to an inverted position to try to stabilize the flight. Unlike the film, however, this did not assist them in recovering the aircraft. The root cause of the crash was found to be inadequate maintenance of the airplane stabilizer, the jack screw, which caused its threads to wear down excessively and eventually jammed the jack screw. While the pilots were trying to reach the Los Angeles for an emergency landing, the threads were ripped out and the stabilizer moved to a position that forced the plane into a fatal dive. If you haven't seen this film, I know there's a film out there with Tom Hanks when he's also a pilot and they like are charged because of some birds that are going over to they end up landing in the
Sully?
water. Sully, yes, Sully, thank you. This is a more of a deeper impact in terms of filming than Sully because it deals with a man's struggles. He's also told to lie on people, and he actually takes responsibility for himself at the end of the film when he admits he's a drunk. Um, like I said, a lot of this film has a lot of similarities with the Michael Keaton film that we talk about when he goes
Clean
to
and
the
sober. Yes.
Clean Sober, and they're both portrayed by two different people. But I love the way the struggle of addiction and the turmoil that it brings on people, not just physically but mentally. Uh, it's really, really presented very, very well in this film. What do you think of Flight?
I think it's a great movie. 3 of our next 4 movies are my favorite, probably Denzel performances that we're going to talk about. So we're gonna get into them. This being, I'll put this at number 3 of the ones that we're going to talk about. Number 3 is one of his greatest performances, as you stated, when he tears apart that whole entire mini bar, and John Goodman shows up, the Candyman, and just really carries that whole scene. John Goodman's great. I really love, he does a really good job in, it's like 1988 or 89 with Al Pacino and Sea of Love. It's like a murder mystery that, but he plays his partner like he does in Fallen to Denzel. Another thing that you could obviously tell that they're friends. They're in multiple roles together. Another thing I love when actors do that. I have to ask you this question, I mean, do you really think Don Cheadle could play this role instead of him? I mean, I know Don Cheadle could play his role that he plays in this movie because he does it very well. I just don't believe that Don Cheadle could play the Denzel role and pull it off as well as Denzel could or come close to it. So I think that could seal the Hurricane argument.
I don't know, man. Don Cheadle is an excellent actor.
But again, Denzel, you were talking about the drunk Denzel in this movie. We're talking about the Denzel.
Yeah, but in all fairness, could Denzel play in Hotel Rwanda as good as Don Cheadle?
I don't know. Does Denzel do accents? I haven't done a study. Yes, he does. Do you ever see Cry Freedom from 1988? Yes. Which again, that's a lot. Honestly, I hate to say it, could be a little deeper than Hotel Rwanda as far as the subject matter. So again, yeah, I do believe he could do Hotel Rwanda.
I don't know if he can do that one as good as that. And I'm saying Denzel's a phenomenal actor, but Don Cheadle couldn't do this film. I don't think he could.
Don Cheadle's great actor though.
Yeah, I'm just making an argument for
Don Cheadle is. I'll tell you one thing that Denzel couldn't do is Don Cheadle's role in Boogie Nights, and you know how much I love Boogie Nights. So there you go.
I got to stick up for my boy Don Cheadle, as Guillermo from the Jimmy Kimmel Show calls him, Don Cheadle. Sam says Denzel is the GOAT. Don Cheadle can't hold his dock strap. I also love Don Cheadle. I'm just trying to make an argument because we had an argument earlier about the Hurricane. But yeah, no, I don't think Don Cheadle could have. Like Denzel is very, very good at pulling emotions. He made getting the audience to understand and feel how his character is, even though like in Flight, his character is a scumbag.
Oh yeah,
but you feel for him, and that's showing the art of acting, of a thespian, and Denzel showing he relays that emotion to the audience, and you feel for him.
True.
You do. I mean, even though he's not a great person, and in real life too, it's crazy that this film deals with alcoholics. John Goodman was a sober alcoholic in 2007, 5 years before the film appeared, and he's a member of AA. And I watched The Conners recently, and he's a star of that. And reading going some backstory on John Goodman, he never misses a meeting. He goes to a meeting every day. So he's very, very involved.
I mean, I used to read some of his stories. I mean, he was drinking, he said a case and a half of beer a day. I mean, that's a serious habit, and obviously look at how he's just changed as himself. Like His literal body has changed because of his lifestyle change.
Yeah, and Poloni throws in all my homies respect on Cheeto's body of work. Poloni. Um, According to Denzel Washington, neither the AA meeting nor the prison scene were in the original screenplay for this, which is crazy because they're both very, very good scenes. Uh, this is an excellent film. I can't talk, enough about how great this film is. You guys need to check this one out. Like I said, it Denzel does some of his best acting in flight. Just the scene, like I explained, the scene of him drinking that bottle of vodka alone relays like the struggles of alcoholism. One of my favorites films. Sam loves it as well. So if Sam's seen it, you gotta watch it. But let's go on to your next film, my man.
I could almost respect a man who had the balls to confront me. Tell me, yeah, I'm banging your wife.
Maybe this guy, maybe there's nothing he would rather do than, to tell you that you're a lousy husband and that you don't deserve it. And maybe there's nothing he would rather do than to walk up in your face, look you right in the eye, and say to you, Chris, I'm banging your wife.
2003's Out of Time, directed by Carl Franklin, who did One False Move, another Denzel film, Devil in the Blue Dress. High Crimes was the other film he did, starring Sana Lathan, Eva Mendes, Dean Cain. Superman makes an appearance. Robert Baker and James Murtaugh. The movie had a budget of $50 million and a box office of $55 million. Tone, tell me why you picked this one.
I like the locale. I like the very, very awesome, like the beach feel of it. I like Devil where in the Blue Dress too. I could have picked that one instead of this one, and I didn't even realize that the same director directed both of them because they're both. I like these type of. He's a different type of cop than he is in the other movies that we may talk about or we could have talked about. But again, he's Eva Mendes does a good job in this movie. Just a really, really great Denzel performance that I think is kind of under the radar because again, it's another one where, it's not Academy Award winning Denzel Washington, but it's him putting in a good performance as a cop who finds himself in a real sticky situation.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Again, that fucking medical field, man, those medical people, they're such assholes. The doctor's shady in this film. And Denzel, that seems like a good guy doing the moral compass of trying to save one of his friends, getting her cancer treatments in Switzerland, and then we find out she doesn't even have cancer, which is ridiculous because the doctor's an imposter, and then they're dead, and then this movie's looking like so many twists and turns.
I like that scene where he goes over the balcony and he like grabs the thing in the camera, like looks like it's gonna fall. Like there's cool little camera tricks in the movie too that I enjoy.
Yeah, it's a lot of twists and turns, and you're just along the ride for Denzel for this one. It's one of those films that keeps you thinking, like keeps you guessing, and I love that his portrayal of it. Like even that with that clip I played of him talking to Chris. Chris is a piece of shit husband. He beats his wife. But my favorite part is when he's like, "Yeah, it's somebody's banging my wife," and you know who it is. But the way he Denzel, like when he's like, oh, good, the way his facial expressions he's going, when he's lying to this guy completely because he's that guy. It's great. And then he basically tells Chris, like, you want people to tell, does he want this guy to tell you that he's begging your wife? Well, I'm basically telling you, well, you're a shit husband. I'm begging your wife, which is crazy.
The movie gave me, it's nothing like Wild Things, but the feeling you get, like a feeling like in the Everglades, like that feeling you get of being like, it's like hot. And that's like what this movie, it's a good movie actually to watch in the wintertime because it'll make you feel warm because you get to see, Eva Mendes and, you like Denzel and everything else.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, man. It's just out there. Like I like this film. It kept me thinking a lot about it. He was paid $20 million for this film.
Ooh.
So he got a big payday out of this film.
Oh, yeah?
This is another film too that doesn't get talked about a lot.
No?
This is the second film I believe he does with Eva Mendes, and then he does Deja Vu with her, right?
Mhm.
So that's 4 films he's done with her in like a span of 6 years, which is crazy. Another film that doesn't get talked about a lot, but he does a great job in this film. Uh, Definitely check it out. There's not much more I can tell you not to do about it because it's so good. It's so many turns. It's like we could basically do a whole episode on Out of Time, I think.
Yeah, it's a good one. Classic.
Yeah, good pick, man. When I saw that's when I laughed because I'm like, holy shit, I forgot about this film. And I love the fact that Dean Cain's in this film.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're not going to see many movies. I mean, and give kudos to Denzel. I mean, if you look down at the casting card and seen Dean Cain, and he's still like, yeah, I'm game to be in this movie. Whereas, like, honestly, like Dean Cain is D-lister. I mean,
Dude, he's horrible.
He's bad. He's
Superman.
bad.
That's all I know him from is that and that Ripley's Believe It or Not show.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all he's known for me. Also making horrible political arguments on Twitter, getting owned. That's my Superman, as Below says.
Superman.
Yeah, but good pick, Tone. I was really laughing when I saw this one. But let's go to our last two. We're gonna go to my final pick, which is
They're wondering about it. Trust me, I know that they are looking at me and thinking about it. So let's just get it out in the open. Let's get it out of the closet. Because this case is not just about AIDS, is it? So let's talk about what this case is really all about. The general public's hatred, our loathing, our fear of homosexuals. And how that climate of hatred and fear translated into the firing of this particular homosexual.
1993's Philadelphia, directed by Jonathan Demme, who also directed The Silence of the Lambs, Rachel Getting Married, and The Manchurian Candidate. The film stars Tom Hanks along with Denzel, Roberta Maxwell, Karen Finley, Jason Robards, and Robert Wrigley. The film had a box office of $206 million on a $26 million budget. This film I picked as probably my favorite Denzel film. Reason being, Tom Hanks won the Oscar for this film. This is, in my opinion, this is Tom Hanks' best performance in all his filmography. I can argue with people about that. People will say, but to me, this is his
Come on,
best.
the man with the red shoe. Are you passing that up? No, I'm just
but this film is amazing in terms of it basically was breakthrough in terms of the subject matter it was discussing with homosexuality, and in his early 90s again it talked about also the pandemic of AIDS going on. In the 80s it was out there, but everybody thought it was just a homosexual disease, which was completely wrong. It fought against a lot of stereotypes. A lot of LGBTQ people spoke out for this film in support of the subject matter. Some of them also didn't like the way some of the portrayals of certain things in the film. I think it's a powerful film, as well as Denzel playing that person who blends in or believes those stereotypes. When he goes to the pharmacy to pick up something and he meets the man who tells him he really, he sees Denzel's fighting this case for a lawyer that's been fired. And he tells him, we really appreciate you doing this. This is a big, big case, and it's a powerful thing. And he's like, oh, and they shake hands. And the man thinks that Denzel's coming out to him. So he asks Denzel out for a drink. And Denzel responds, do I look gay? And he's like, do I look gay? And Denzel didn't know what to say then because the guy looked like a jock. And basically he gets very upset and he pulls the guy in and yells at him and storms out. But to go from that to defending something that he wasn't comfortable with, and he does a great job of showing that, like how his ignorance as a character, when he shakes Tom Hanks' hand and then he runs to his doctor to ask him, could I've gotten AIDS from shaking his hand? It shows all those things that people thought about at the time. And for him to eventually, represent this person that was wrongfully terminated due to the fact he was, he had HIV and was dying of AIDS is powerful. I thought Denzel does a great job in this film, and like I said, this is Tom Hanks's best role, and Denzel's right up there with him in his portrayal of his character as well. Both the chemistry between them is great, and this film is very powerful. What do you think of Philadelphia, Tom?
I'll always be proud. I mean, I don't like to toot my own horn here, but I'll always be proud of myself because of the Pulp Fictions and the Reservoir Dogs, and I could see my VHSs up there. And my mom didn't sit down and watch this movie with me. My dad sure the hell didn't sit down and watch this movie with me. I just picked this movie out and watched it, and like when I was 13 or 14, and man, I love this movie for everything. Yep, you said it to me before. You said things like, and you've said it to Baloney too. You said sometimes we're in our head a lot when we're making decisions. I mean, this movie's deep. So to be 13 or 14 and watching such a deep subject matter, and my friends, a lot of them were immature. The only joke I remember anyone ever making about this movie, and you got to admit it's ridiculous, is Antonio Banderas playing Tom Hanks's lover. Just the idea of Antonio Banderas playing that role of Miguel. But besides that, because Desperado's out at the same time, where you don't see him as that, and to be frank, the role is so small and tiny in the movie. But that was just us as 14 years old. Now, obviously, that's not a big deal. But the movie itself is just a great character study on a lot of different things. I remember, honestly, the music itself. You know how much I love music. Neil Young's song can make me tear up at any moment. Bruce Springsteen's song, even when I first saw this movie, can make you tear up. It's just a lot of thinking, and it's a lot of emotions, and it's just really great. And I'm for Sam for the sequel, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you say about the Antonio Banderas. I think you're forgetting that he was in an Interview with a Vampire where he played kind of like the
That's
homosexual lover
different,
of
but
Brad Pitt.
I think a vampire lover and a guy wearing a sailor's costume is a little bit different. I could be wrong about that, Jump, especially at the age of 12, but
No, but the script is based partly on a discrimination lawsuit by Jeffrey Bowers, a young lawyer working for a prominent multinational law firm. Like Tom Hanks' character, Beckett had visible Kaposi sarcoma lesions. The directors had decided to fire him in July of 1986, 2 months after he received good marks on his routine performance evaluation. His supervisors protested because the board had sidestepped company policies, failing to interview his supervisor, review his client list, or calculate his billable hours. That October, the partners voted again to fire him 1 month after another positive evaluation. Bowers was fired December 4th, 1986, and departed the firm the following day. The case took 6 years to resolve. The case took 6 years in all. That's crazy that it took that long. And, this is the crazy thing about this film. So, there was a statistic that there were 53 gay men who appeared in various scenes in the movie. Within the next year, 43 of them had passed away. On his Entertainment Urban Legends Revealed website, Brian Cronin more or less confirmed, but also corrected the statistic based in part on a New York Times article and other research. According to Cronin, the movie's producers approached the Action AIDS nonprofit organization in Philadelphia and asked to help recruit as extras 50 or so gay men whose appearances were indicative of them having AIDS. Contrary to the statistic, the 40 or so who subsequently died, including Ron Valter, who played the main character Bob Seidman in the film, did not die in the first year after the film was either produced or released, rather died over the next few years thereafter. But it's still ridiculous that a lot of them passed, but they did have realism in that role.
You ever watch, if you haven't, I really suggest, if you like this movie, to check it out. It's on HBO. It was like 7 years ago. It was a made for TV movie they did starring Mark Ruffalo. It was called The Normal Heart. It's another story of around this time period of, again, and I've talked about this a lot. I've always just been fascinated at the lack there of care of people back then, of trying to do things to help this going on. And it's it's heartbreaking. This movie is heartbreaking to me in a lot of different ways because it brought light to the situation. But again, look at all the struggle he had to go through and all of the emotions that the character had to go through. When the reality is he should have been living a kind of a carefree life and not had to have been dealing with such bullshit. You know what I mean? And you know, and I think of everything of what I've always enjoyed in the movie is even like the scenes with his brothers when they're all sitting around in a circle. And that's the part where they all really care about him. And they're more, it's not, and that's when at that age, I was like, you know, that's just, you know, this is his family, you know, they love him for who he is, not for all these things that people on the outside who don't even know who he is to say ignorant things. And the way that both characters portray that in this whole entire story, Denzel, you know, obviously I agree with you, this is Tom Hanks's best role, but Denzel again having to step up to the plate to go against, you know, not go against, but go toe to toe with another great actor in Tom Hanks. Denzel not only holds it own, but I believe this is the kickstart to him even becoming stronger as an actor.
Yeah, definitely. One crazy thing is that John Leguizamo turned down the part of Miguel.
Oh man, now that would have been, now I would have loved that. That would have been great.
You know what role he took instead of for Miguel?
The Pest?
No, Pest was later. Pest is a classic, man. Super Mario Brothers. He played Luigi.
Oh, okay. Well, I can see why he took that instead.
But and he was in that film with Bob Hoskins. I know Bob Hoskins mentioned.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in terms of Denzel, this is a person that was basically considered for his role was Mel Gibson.
Ooh.
How do you think Mel Gibson would have did in this role?
Oh, bad. Now, what would have even been hilarious is, you know, you mean in Denzel's part?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were still talking about Miguel.
No, and Denzel's part.
No,
I think he would have been bad.
No, he wouldn't have done bad. It would have been stupid.
Yeah, it's crazy that you know, Denzel didn't get nominated in this role.
Yeah, you should have.
Definitely should have. But powerful film. There's a lot of a pushback about the film is that it took Hollywood 10 years to address the AIDS pandemic, which unfortunately that's sometimes how things go. I wish we addressed things more head on, but human nature is stupid. That's all I can say about that. But Tone, let's close it out with your film.
I want justice.
Is
right?
that not justice?
That's street justice.
What's wrong with street justice?
Oh, just let the animals wipe themselves out. right?
God willing. Fuck them. Everybody who looks like them. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. The good guys, they die first, right? Those school kids and moms, family men, they don't want to catch the stray bullets in the noodle. To protect the sheep, you got to catch the wolf. And it takes a wolf to catch a wolf. You understand?
2001's Training Day, directed by Antoine Fuqua, starring Denzel along with Ethan Hawke, Scott Glenn, Eva Mendes comes up on here again, Cliff Curtis, and Tom Berenger for like 5 minutes. The movie had a box office of $104 million on a budget of $45 million. Tone, tell us about Training Day.
It's such an amazing whip smart script. Remember the night I seen it opening weekend. I mean, I don't hold it to this high regard. I mean, I think it's an amazing movie, but I mean, when I walked out of the theater, I mean, I was thinking it was up there with Goodfellas. Like it's really, really good movie, I think, and he's really, really awesome in it. I don't hold it to that same high of I think it's a great all around depiction. And I mean, again, it's another role that, I mean, who's, you know, not a lot of people I think could have pulled it off. And I think Ethan Hawke does equally a great job because Ethan Hawke is playing like the direct opposite character of him. The way the movie starts out, I like the way it's all shot within that day. You know what I mean? And that's like, again, a trick in a movie in itself to make it feel that way and keep it that way. The way they just pick Ethan Hawke gets picked up. The dialogue, again, Scott Glenn does a good job too in a very small role. You know, Scott Glenn in Backdraft, he's great in that too.
Try to get my cheddar.
But again, just a great script and a great performance that you can see that at the end of the day, you know, why Denzel won the Oscar for this one.
Life has taught me to just try and be the best that I can be. And I thank the Academy for saying to me that on this given night, I was the best that I could be.
So everything you said about this film is completely correct. I completely agree with you. Another reason why I love this film is because you just showed that Denzel won the Oscar and he beat out Russell Crowe for a movie that I cannot stand, and that is A Beautiful Mind.
Oh, for a second there, I was like, it wasn't Gladiator. Please don't say Gladiator. I don't want to argue with you
A Beautiful
again.
Mind.
Not to say that Gladiator is great, but no, I walked out of A Beautiful Mind angry. And honestly, I watched it again, and it's not as bad as I did the first time. It's still a bad movie, but no, he should have definitely won. I mean, over Russell Crowe.
Yeah, and he also beat Will Smith for Ali, and Sean Penn, I think, was probably his biggest competition, and I Am Sam. Tom Wilkinson in The Bedroom was actually a good film as well too.
And I was a little harsh on Will Smith and Ali. He did a good job in that. I mean, I'm not saying he should have won, but over Denzel, but it was an okay role.
He's all right. But yeah, just Denzel plays a bad guy in this, like a straight up bad guy in this film. And he kind of plays that, but you don't know if he's setting him up the whole time. Ethan Hawke does a great job as a young, like, cop trying to go under the old veteran, trying to get, the information, trying to fast track his career. And a lot of shit that Denzel does is shady. Like, it's just crazy that he makes him take PCP in this film.
You like to get wet.
To be a narcotics officer, you must learn to do drugs. The famous line that people probably thought I was going to use is the line, "King Kong ain't got shit on me." That was actually ad-libbed by Denzel. I love the fact when they go to the essay's house and the dude's like, "This is for hitting me in my own pad."
That's probably my favorite part.
Yeah.
I
Ever
love
had
what
shit pushed in?
what's the main dude that's sitting there? Because he also plays Pablo Escobar in Blow. I forgot.
Miley. His real name is
Clifton
Hooks or something like that.
Something along those lines. But I love that dude. He's good in that. He's good in that role.
Yeah, he I'll tell you his name right now.
In the theater, sitting there.
Curtis.
Cliff Curtis, sitting there in the theater watching him be left in that situation. You felt it. Like, I remember feeling it, like, what the hell's going to happen? And he got himself out of that situation, which was crazy.
Yeah, and then you have Noel Giamatti, who is like his whole career is playing Mexican thugs named Hector. If you've seen a guy named Hector with a bald head, it's probably Noel. And then you got Raymond Cruz as Sniper in there. That whole, like, dialogue when he finds out he saved his niece, or his little cousin, is crazy. When he's like, I saved her life. And the best part is they pull him out, they clean his head off, and then he tells him, this shit was just business, right? He makes the face, and then he's like, and they let him take the bus home, which is another part that makes me laugh. Snoop Dogg's in here. He plays the wheelchair guy who takes all the drugs when they chase him. He just shoves the drugs out. He swallows all of them, which is ridiculous. It's like, I love the fact that it is shot in one day. But it's a great pairing again of Ethan Hawke and Denzel. I don't think this is Denzel's greatest role, but it's a very good role. Something different he did. He's playing kind of the villain more in this film, but a conniving villain. The crazy thing is, for Ethan Hawke's character of Jake Holt, the officer, then Eminem was offered the role, and he turned it down due to the development of 8 Mile. And it's kind of crazy because before we came on the show, I was watching a TikTok, and Eminem is going to appear in the new Happy Gilmore.
I saw that.
And 50 Cent has went on record and said that Eminem does not like playing fake characters. That's why he's not in a lot of movies. He usually either plays himself or a parody of himself. Adam Sandler had to go through a lot of trouble to get him to come and do Happy Gilmore too, which I think is kind of cool. Ethan Hawke took the role and was nominated for an Academy Award for his film for Best Supporting Actor. He didn't win, but Eminem was nominated and won an Academy Award the following year for 8 Mile in the original song category for Lose Yourself. So he has an Oscar as well.
A
Christian
lot of good
Bale,
music in this movie too. A lot of good
yes,
songs. Dr.
Dre.
Dre, yeah.
Christian Bale auditioned for the role as well for Jake Holt. David Ayer liked him so much he gave him the role of Jim in Harsh Times in 2005. So it's a great, great film. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen it. I remember the first time I saw this was in film class in high school. And I loved it then and still love it today. It's a classic Denzel film. A film that gets mentioned more times than one. Also, this film won an Oscar for Denzel, and also Halle Berry won that night for Monsters Ball. It was the first time in history of the Oscars that 2 African American actors had won Best Actor and Best Actress. Crazy stuff, Tone.
Very crazy. Very, very crazy.
Also, in The Equalizer, he's going after the Russian mob, and in Training Day, the Russian mob's coming after him. So, could Alonzo be Robert McCall in The Equalizer?
He could have gotten it together and like talked to each character to help each other out or something.
Yeah, if he got lit up, he went to the CIA and went after the mob. But that is our Denzel 10 films that we picked, 5 and 5. Just some little tidbits about Denzel. He was nominated for 10 Oscars, winning 2: Best Actor for Training Day and Best Supporting Actor for Glory. He, again, is the first African-American actor to receive 2 Academy Awards. He became only the 6th actor to win both leading and supporting acting Oscars, the other 5 being Robert De Niro, Gene Hackman, Kevin Spacey, Jack Lemmon, and Jack Nicholson. He named Gene Hackman, Angelina Jolie, and Dakota Fanning as the most talented actors he's ever worked with. He's a practitioner of Goju Ryu karate, Kali, boxing, judo, Krav Maga, and jiu-jitsu. So that's why he's such a badass. Tom Hanks said working with Denzel on Philadelphia in 1993 was like going to film school. Hanks said he learned more about acting by watching Denzel than from anyone else. And this is the guy who won the Best Actor award that night. It's just ridiculous to see how good Denzel is. His films and all his roles of 79 roles have grossed $4.8 billion.
Wow.
That's why sometimes they call him the king of Hollywood, man. Denzel. Any closing thoughts on my man?
Again, I mean, we've talked about on the show here, American Gangster, another great role he's in. Again, anything he touches, I think he came out with a movie a couple years ago called Fences. He was up, that was up for Academy Awards, a quieter movie, but still brings the Denzel, I believe, that you want to see. Denzel is not afraid to do any role that is going to expand his acting catalog. Just a really good all-around actor. I was glad we were able to break down some of his movies tonight.
Yeah, and actually, Fences is based off a drama play that our guy, my wife just said it too, is award-winning play. Yeah, it's based off a drama play that our guy Darth Vader was actually James Earl Jones was actually the lead in. He played Denzel's part that he won Tony Awards for. So it's a great adaptation. He does a great role in there. We did leave out some Denzel films. You only could pick 5 and 5, but let us know your picks. If we missed one, American Gangster, I'm pretty sure it's going to come up, or any other of Denzel's films that we missed that weren't in our list. We would love to hear. Just let us know in the YouTube comments or on Twitter or Blue Sky.
Have you ever seen that real quick, that Manchurian Candidate remake? Again, Denzel doesn't play a Denzel that you see him in other movies. He plays like I don't want to say like more of like a scientific Denzel. You know what I mean? Like Denzel, but again, when Liz talking about earlier that Hurricane interview, he said he picked that role because again, there's anger in that character, which is cool that Denzel is, as you stated, as Tom Hanks actually stated, is brings so much to all of his characters.
Yep. And also Denzel did play Fences on Broadway as well. He won an award for that as well with Viola Davis. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, the revival was Viola Davis for Mary Alice, and Denzel Washington played the role for James Earl Jones. But it's a great film. He's so talented and hot. Okay, Jen, go to bed. But that is our Denzel Washington walkthrough. Hopefully, we gave you guys some laughs and some arguments that were in. So maybe have some talking going on there about which side you kind of fair on the argument we had. Well, not argument, more of a debate. But yeah, let us know in the comments. Tone, let's start getting wrapped up this show and going into what is going to be coming soon to the show next week, my man.
Let's do it.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
Okay, that was me doing Gremlins, because next week we are going to be going in depth of Gremlins. I didn't do that earlier, Yump, when you said that's what we were doing, because that always plays in my head. We are going to be doing our classic, taking a movie, and we're going to have the pre-production. We're going to be going through the casting. Then we're going to go through the movie. And then, as always, Jump's going to have some really cool fan theories, I hope. I'm going to be excited for.
Yeah. Gremlins, it's Christmas time. Gremlins is a Christmas film. So we are going to go in. Sam's agreeing with my wife about Denzel. We're about to go into a deep dive in Gremlins. So I'm looking forward to that. One of my favorite films. And I know it's one of your favorite films as well, Tom.
Classic.
Also got Phoebe Cates in it that everybody loves.
Oh, yes. I love Phoebe Cates.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna need some more Tony B beatboxing next week.
Oh, yes.
Before we get into the Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week, just want to give some closing, put some bow on the closing of this show. Be sure to check out the Hookup on Music that Tony has been doing. Tone, what was on the latest episode of the Hookup?
Talked about some really cool stuff. Talked about a really awesome cover album that was released by Garbage. I read the biography of Alex Van Halen, the drummer from Van Halen. Got into that. Went into Twisted Christmas. Great concert was Tuesday night with Cage the Elephant and Franz Ferdinand. A double bill that was amazing. Back to back. A lot of cool stuff. Check that out. Dropped at 7 tonight. So check it out.
Yeah, be sure to check that out. We also had a Getting Drafty in Here episode that aired last week. What was that one on, Tone? I can't. For some reason, I'm drawing a blank.
Was it the coaches?
The worst coaches in Chicago history.
Yes,
that was a good one that went on. But Brian's doing a great job there. He'll be coming back, I believe, with Christmas songs.
Yes.
Coming up. Also, we'll check out the new at the Little Show, which will be coming out next week. We'll have something there. Also, I'll be doing a blog for the 108 crew that'll be dropping sometime. I believe it drops tomorrow on some of Christmas horror films. Check them out. Big supporters of us, and we are of them. And if you guys want a voiceover, check me out on Fiverr. I'm doing voiceovers. Been doing that as well as a side project. So you want to hear me do a voiceover for you? Check me out there. You can check out the link. It's on my it's in our link tree at the Sadistic Penguin Twitter and also on Blue Sky. So you can click me on my way at the bottom. But that's pretty much it, my man. Let's go into the Sugar Baggy soundtrack pick of the week. Once I can find your thingy.
The Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week.
Hello, welcome to my Sugar Baggies pick of the week. Tonight, I'm going with the I Am Sam soundtrack because, well, I love Sam. He's always in the comments. So that's a different Sam. This is the soundtrack that is based on the Sean Penn movie, which the whole soundtrack is loaded with Beatles songs covered by everyone from Rufus Wainwright to the Wallflowers to you just heard Eddie Vedder doing You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. Lots of good performances on here. Ben Folds does Golden Slumbers. Divines does I'm Only Sleeping. There's really, really good stuff. Nick Cave doing Let It Be. The movie itself is okay. I don't really. Oh, did I go away? Am I still here?
No, you're still here. I'm listening to you.
Okay. I have like the little thing up in the corner. It's like, okay, I'm back. All right. So great movie. I did say it wasn't my favorite, and it really isn't. But the soundtrack is my favorite. So check out the soundtrack if you like the Beatles, because there is a lot of cool Beatles covers on it.
Yeah, it's got a lot of old tunes in it, which I like. The film is, I think, like I said, I think the film has the best. Sean Penn steals the show in the film, and I thought he was very, very good in it. The subject matter is a little tough.
That's the problem. Like it's whereas like, or it's like I don't know if it's easy for me to watch Bachelor Party and then see Tom Hanks play Philadelphia. It's tough to me to see Spicoli and then see Penn do this role because I think Penn's a great actor, but I think sometimes he goes too far. I'm not saying he did on this role, but I think Robin, some of the other characters like Michelle Pfeiffer does a good job in this movie. Back to Dakota Fanning. I mean, she does a good job in this movie. But the soundtrack itself is was a Grammy nominated soundtrack, which again, for something to be Grammy nominated, it has to be halfway decent generally. So pretty good little soundtrack, especially if you're looking to see the Black Crowes cover a Beatles song, which could be awesome if you love the Black Crowes. So again, it's a cool little soundtrack.
Yeah, for sure. Good pick, man. It's a good one.
Thank you.
So that is the At the Show podcast show. It took us 2 weeks to get back, and we are back. We'll be back next week with our deep dive into Gremlins. Again, be sure to check out the new At the Little Show that will be releasing both on YouTube and via podcast. It might be recorded, might be live. We haven't decided yet, but it'll be coming out with your entertainment news and movie news along with TV news and all that good stuff. A short mini little show. And check out the Hookup on Music as well as It's Getting Drafty in here. And if you can, be sure to pick up Gordo's shirt to support our guy as he goes through his surgery on the 18th.
Yeah, so, please pick up one of those shirts. If you haven't, an amazing documentary is dropped on HBO, all about Christopher Reeve, Superman. Honestly, it is amazing. DC put this together. Goes into his whole life story again, really deep, but awesome. And there's this, if you got Paramount Plus, Michael Fassbender's got a new show called The Agency. It's really, really, really actually awesome. And a lot of good performances by Jeffrey Wright, who's another awesome actor who doesn't get sometimes the credit he deserves. But check that out too. So just thought I'd throw that in there at the end.
Yeah, and don't watch The Mousetrap. But
did you ever, real quick before we go, did you watch that Winnie the Pooh one?
Yeah, The Mousetrap is 10 times worse than that film.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to watch either, but thank you for saving me. Because finding the picture for it, actually showing it tonight wasn't the easiest thing. So it's not the easiest movie to access.
It's on Peacock.
Which could be a good thing. There could be a good thing. It's on what?
Peacock.
It's on Peacock?
Yeah, that's how I watched it.
All right, I watched it. I'm going to watch it. If anything, I'll watch it on Fast Forward tomorrow to give you my review.
It's an hour and 20 minutes, so it's not long. It's just really bad.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, I want to have like a mini review if you watch it next week.
Sounds good.
Think about it. But that's our show. Be sure to check us out next week for Gremlins, and you guys have an excellent night.
Take care.
for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?